Hello, I am Jacqueline Housel, a member of the League of Women Voters of the Greater Dayton area. I'm here today with candidates running for the Miami Township Board of Trustees. The candidates are Lori Askeland, Marilan Moir, Jed Hanna. Jed Hanna is unable to join us due to a prior commitment. We're going to start our interviews by giving the candidates 1 minute to tell us about themselves and why they want to serve on the Miami Township Board of Trustees. And we're going to start this conversation with Lori Askeland.
Okay, hi. I'm Lori Askeland. I grew up on a farm in Iowa, and then co-owned some land. I married the boy down the road, and we were both farm kids. And I grew up in 4-H, which was super important to me. It's where I learned parliamentary procedure and held lots of offices, Robert's Rules of Order, and also lots of skills related to farm life. And my husband and I then co-owned some land, and we conserved it under the USDA Wetlands Restoration Program, and then we transferred the land to the state of Iowa. It's now preserved permanent wetlands area. It had a big peat bog on it. Then I was 27 years a distinguished professor at Wittenberg University, and in retirement, I also served 2 terms. Prior to retiring, I served 2 terms on the Yellow Springs Village Council, and I've got a lifelong service of community and belief in land stewardship. And I love good governance. I love open, transparent governance that people can get access to. So that's why I'm running.
Thank you very much. And now we're going to turn to Marilan Moir. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself and why you want to serve on the Miami Township Board of Trustees?
I've lived in Miami Township, specifically the village of Yellow Springs, for multiple decades. I came here when I was 27 and raised 2 children here. I have a Bachelor of Science degree, actually in agronomy and soil science, so I know a lot about it. I know a lot about farming issues and compaction and wetlands and watersheds and things. So I took that and I went a different direction and taught high school science for 22 years and taught environmental science rather, biology, human anatomy, all kinds of biological science-based courses. But I've always been involved in my community, and I ran the first time. I'm an incumbent. I ran the first time because I was visualizing a lot what we are going to become. We are kind of a touristy center, Yellow Springs, with a rural area around us, and I could see some, land use discussions coming up, and I really felt the need that we need to visualize what we're going to be, in 20 years. We have to start now to visualize what we're going to be in 20 years. But during my term, do I got a clock here? During my term, I realized that the township had some more pressing needs. We need to mature as an organization, and
Okay. Thank you very much,
yeah.
Marilan. Now I'm going to ask each candidate the same question. We have 3 questions in all. You will have 2 minutes to speak to each question, and then I'll respond and move on to the next candidate and give them 2 minutes to respond. So the first question is directed towards Marilan Moir. What do you see as the biggest challenges facing the township?
The biggest challenge facing the township is, like I said, maturing as an organization. Many rural townships are run for a long time by good, willing people who just take on a lot of responsibility and necessarily have to kind of take their things into their own hands. Well, that goes from our volunteer fire department to the way we spend money to the way we make decisions. And it has started to cause, as we grow into a larger community and a professional fire service, in many ways, we're still acting as if we're a small rural township. And there have been, little bit of dysfunction popping up because there's not we're not agreed on a set of procedures and rules. And so I know it sounds boring, but I think we need to procedurally develop things like, such as having our budgets be more forward-looking, having for the fire department, like a comprehensive capital plan for how we're going to move into the future. We need procedures on how we act as a board, how things are put on the agenda, as simple as that, and how spending is approved. There's a lot of developing to do. So I see that as a priority. And I'm sorry, the minutes thing, I'm still messed up on here. Where am I at, 30?
You've a few seconds left.
Okay. And there are other things, but that's the priority for me right now.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that. And now we're going to turn to Lori Askeland. What do you see as the biggest challenges facing the township?
Yeah, thank you. Well, I'm in pretty broad agreement with Marilyn's perspective. We definitely need those forward-thinking budgets that more, in general, we need policies and procedures that, as much as possible, put all the trustees on a level playing field and ensure transparency and availability of government to the people, because local government people often don't pay attention to until something is going wrong or they're upset about something. And if they can't figure out what's on the agenda, they can't figure out when is this going to be discussed, or, oh, they actually discussed that at the last meeting because somebody brought it up, so we just had that discussion, we voted. Like, that is actually a real impediment to people, and it's unfair. So wanting to make sure we have all of those processes in place, and there's been some real progress made, but there's more things to be done. So making sure government is open and available to people, that there is a general ethos. That's a fancy word. I'm an old college professor. There's a general vibe, the kids say, or a general aura, a sort of feeling of civility and honesty and respect for everybody as we navigate these issues. That's one thing in my service on 2 terms on the village council, 8 years, I really focused on trying to be a calm present who really listens to people. And then it explains myself as clearly as I can, what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, and to try to make all my decisions not based on just who happens to be in the room speaking loudly, but actually on the agreed upon goals and mission of the institution. And when Marilan says maturing the organization, that's what I hear, is getting to that place where we're not just reacting, we actually are thinking about a plan and using that to guide our decisions.
Thank you very much. And now we're going to go to our second question, which is going to go to Lori Askeland first. What should the township trustees do to address housing needs in the township?
Okay, yeah, this is a big
Wow.
issue for us. There is a nationwide severe housing shortage, and particularly a shortage of housing that is affordable. I'm especially concerned about young people and workers. We have about as many, we've done a pretty good housing study for the village of Yellow Springs, which is the dominant population center of Miami Township, but it is not exclusively the township. I want to be very clear about that. However, what happens in Yellow Springs impacts the township, and what happens in the township impacts Yellow Springs. So there's a very good housing study for Yellow Springs. It's a few years old now. So, and there's been a lot of housing happening in Yellow Springs, and some smaller development happening in Clifton, and then of course along the roadsides. So I think we need to look at our comprehensive plan, think about where do we want housing, how do we try to have what I call smart growth policies that I learned about from Tecumseh Land Trust, where you try to ensure a little more density in the population centers so that you can maintain openness and green space and that sort of rural feel for the township. And so being somebody who can kind of navigate between the world of Yellow Springs and the government and has really deep connections there, I think is an asset that I bring.
Okay, thank you very much. And now we're going to turn to Marilan Moir for the same question. What should the township trustees do to address housing needs in the township?
First of all, I'm having trouble seeing the in the chat new timer. So if you could just say 30 seconds, that would be helpful.
Okay.
What should we do? I'm really glad to hear your ideas, Lori. That really sparks a lot for me. Township zoning. There are some things I agree with a lot of what Lori said and appreciate her connection to the village government. And our own zoning resolution, for example, doesn't allow dwelling unit, and agricultural land only allows one dwelling unit. So you could have a 1,000-acre farm that could only have one house on it. And we've actually had people who want to age in place but live in an old farmhouse and have to go get a variance to somehow get themselves another place to live so they can live there, or they have children coming home, or that would like to take care of them, but they need more dwelling, and that's just right now isn't allowable. And I think there's our own Greene County plan calls for us to review the rules about accessible dwelling, and there's a reluctance on our current zoning commission. So continue to get I guess get information to the zoning commission, but also increase the diversity of thought on those boards.
Okay, 30 seconds.
And besides that, there's the old how much 3-acre lots where you can where you decide how big a lot has to be to build on the perimeter of a farm. Also, real quick, the topic of annexation, we have around our biggest population center, there's an urban service boundary, and it's kind of an agreement. If there's going to be houses, we're going to stay within that boundary where we can all share utilities and things. And there's been controversial annexation issues have to be there has to be a public process for annexation issues.
Thank you very much. And now our final question, and this will go to Marilan Moir first. Could you describe the skills and experience you will bring to the Township Board of Trustees?
I have a great attention to detail and am a critical thinker, almost to the point of not bringing myself back out of it. So I can I see myself as playing a role of who knows that number, who remembers what we did, who's looking that up. I can play that almost special services role for the board. I also have found that I'm a great networker. There are problems that needed to be solved, and I just went and got them. I've met in this 4 years. I wasn't in local government before, but I've made wonderful friends all across Greene County. The auditor's office knows me because I'm constantly going to them and asking for explanations, even asking, I'm going to come in and you can train me on how the township is doing this and what we could do differently. I have made friends and found mentors among other township trustees and fiscal officers. And I guess when I need to solve a problem and we don't have the expertise in-house, I'm really good at going and getting it. And I'm going to end there.
Okay, thank you very much. And now we're going to end our questioning with Lori Askeland. Describe the skills and experience you will bring to the Township Board of Trustees.
Okay, well, as I've mentioned, I have the years of service in local government, And I also have years of service as a university professor who is very connected to community. I taught many service learning classes connecting with nonprofits, a little bit more in Clark County because that's where my university is located. But there's a lot of connections between all the nonprofits in the region. So I bring that. I also think I bring a good skill set of thinking through processes and how to make processes fair and transparent and accessible to people. When you're a teacher, you have to think about that all the time. And so I am probably more comfortable up at a little higher, and not in a negative way, but I think Marilan is so good at those details. And I tend to be a little bit above the details. Sometimes, I need somebody like Marilan to help me see the details that I might be forgetting as I'm trying to think more about, okay, so how do we make this work? How do we make all those details kind of work and accessible and make sense to people? And I might lose details in the process, and that's something I love having help with. I think actually, as we're having this conversation, I feel like my skills would complement Marilan's well, thinking through those kinds of things. I'm also known, I think, for being a pretty calm presence and being able to listen even when people are saying things that might seem aggressive, might seem, personally directed at me in ways that feel uncomfortable. I'm pretty good at keeping my calm and also trying to hear the story underneath whatever feels like an attack, because chances are it is not actually about me. It's about a whole lot of other things. And so what I need to do is hear that story. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, in closing, we'd like to provide each candidate with a minute for a closing statement. And for this, we're going to first turn to Lori Askeland.
Well, I hope voters will vote for me. I respect that this process is really in your hands. And I think the skills that I bring to this job are ones that the Miami Township needs right now. We, I think, can make it through. We've got some fiscal challenges, a variety of them, and I have experience working with those kinds of budgets, which are complicated, and also just a good sensibility of making your government work for you and making sure that it's true to the values that that the whole Miami Township holds dear.
Okay, and thank you. Finally, Marilan Moir, your closing statement.
I'd like to ask the voters to give me the opportunity for a second term. I would continue to work on your behalf with transparency and with honesty as I have my first term. And I just, sorry, I just froze. Okay, I'm gonna work with transparency and honesty. And I have pieces of the thread. There are things we have started with. We have a consultant who's an industry expert in the field in fire and rescue. And
30
we have
seconds.
things that are in process that I've been tracking, that if I'm not reelected, it's gonna be a start over for the people that are. So I would like to give that service. It's a big job, and it's going to be a hard job, but I feel like the board would backslide if I didn't present them what I've done the first 4 years and help with that process.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you both for your participation today. Good luck with your campaigns. The League of Women Voters encourages all candidates to run an issues-oriented campaign. Our goal is to educate the voting public and strengthen our elective political process. The annual Voters Guide will be distributed beginning the first week in October in the Dayton Daily News, AIM Media suburban newspapers, and at local libraries, schools, and businesses. Early voting for the upcoming election begins on October 7th at your Board of Elections office, or you can request an absentee ballot. However you decide to vote, your opinion matters and helps make our democracy work. So thank you for joining us.